journey. As cliche as it may sound, connecting with others who share your experience is my #1 recommendation for caregivers. You'll soon realize you're not alone, and in the process, discover a much-needed network of aid and compassion. More tips like this are available anytime at caregivercrossingradio.org. With new weekly content created by Joyce House and distributed in partnership with Network Indiana, we're an on-air and online support group for Hoosier family caregivers. Hear conversations with experts, access a library of online education, and more at caregivercrossingradio.org.
Amber and Nigel here, inviting you to join us as we kick off the weekend every Friday around 5:45 with Beer Sample Friday, brought to you by our friends at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus.
The Indianapolis Public Library. More than just books. Visit your local branch today.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment, and this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And good afternoon and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. We're thrilled you're with us on this spectacular central Indiana afternoon. It is gorgeous out there. I walked in the studio, it was 68 degrees and sunny and beautiful, and the motorcycles are out on Monument Circle and otherwise, and it puts me in a very good mood. And it's fun to come in here and do radio. We got a lot to talk about, as we always do. Interestingly enough, news just broke yesterday that Hunter Biden, the embattled son of our beloved president, failed in his efforts in court on Friday to have the gun charge against him thrown out. And this is really kind of interesting, and it's got a lot of different layers to it, and it really bears some discussion, because for folks who aren't particularly enamored with the Biden administration, and I would put myself in that group, but those of us who are passionate about gun rights, there's some interesting give and takes to this. There's some interesting interplay in how this is all ultimately going to work out. And it's fascinating to watch, and it's something that I've been trying to keep a close eye on. So first of all, what is Hunter Biden being prosecuted for? He's being prosecuted for the a violation of the federal law that says you may not lie when you go into a gun store and fill out the form. It's called a ATF Form 4473. And if you've bought a gun in a gun store, you've filled one of these out. And it asks you several questions. I mean, after all the identifying information and whatnot, it asks you a series of questions. And they're essentially a list of the things that make you a prohibited possessor under federal law. For instance, it'll ask you if you've been convicted of a crime for which the maximum sentence was over a year. And that sounds complicated, but really what they're asking you is, do you have a felony conviction? Because that's how you define a felony. It's a crime for which the maximum sentence is over a year. And that can vary a little bit state to state. Some states have kept, like their OWI or DUI, whatever you want to call it, those crimes, they've kept them labeled as misdemeanors, but they've raised the maximum sentence to up to 2 years in some states for the misdemeanor offense, like a first offense. And so anyway, the usual application of that definition is if you have a felony conviction. It asks you a series of other things. Do you have a domestic violence order or protection against you? And a whole series of other questions. One of the things it asks you is, are you a user of or addicted to any illegal drugs? And what's interesting is that it does not ask you if you're presently under the influence of drugs. It says, are you a user of or addicted to? So if you're a habitual drug user, even though you haven't used, for instance, that day, and you're not necessarily high at the moment, or you're not impaired in the driving sense, then you can still be tagged off base if you say no, because even though you haven't used that day, you were a user of or addicted to an illegal drug. And what's interesting is they've changed that question. I talk about this in my Indiana gun law class. They've changed that question now to add a line that says, by the way, this includes marijuana, even if you're in a state where marijuana has been legalized. And why is that? And I've mentioned this here on the show before. It's because marijuana remains a controlled substance, in other words, an illegal drug at the federal level, according to the Controlled Substances Act of 1970. In fact, this is ludicrous, and as I always say when I'm talking about marijuana, this is not a hot-button issue for me, because I learned all the way back in college, if not high school, that marijuana and I don't get along. We just don't get along. It makes me want to assume a fetal position and go to sleep. But it is an issue for a lot of other people, including veterans suffering from PTSD and people who are in need of pain management, and a whole lot of other people, in addition to people who just want to use it recreationally. But the question now says this includes marijuana in states where it's been legalized. And again, it's still illegal under the federal statute. And this is the ludicrous part. You can argue it's ludicrous that it's even still illegal, but it not only is it illegal, it's in the schedule of drugs that are at the very top of the list for being the most addictive and the most harmful with the least medicinal benefit. So it's up there with heroin and cocaine and meth. As silly as that is. But the law says you may not lie on that form. And the question is, are you a user of or addicted to? Secondly, there is a separate federal statute that says you may not possess a gun if you're a user of or addicted to an illegal drug. So if you go in and you lie on that question, you really are looking at two different federal charges. And we're talking about 10 years in federal prison here. You're looking at two different charges, one of which is lying on the form. Secondly, it's possessing the gun. If the gun store sells it to you and you walk out with it, now you're in possession of a gun as a prohibited possessor. That's a crime. Lying on the form's a crime. He's being accused of both. Because in his book, he came out and admitted that he was addicted to, I believe cocaine was his drug of choice. I would stand to be corrected on that if you know more than me. But he came out in his book and he did a whole media tour promoting his book. And you remember the quote where he's talking about, oh yeah, I remember sifting through my carpet looking for little bits of cocaine and probably snorted more Parmesan cheese that had fallen off of pizzas than cocaine in those days. Ha ha. And in some talk show, he's making that quote, or at least humorous reference. And so he's admitted that at this precise point in time, he was severely addicted to illegal drugs. So he's being prosecuted. The argument yesterday that Hunter Biden's lawyers tried, it was that he was being selectively and vindictively targeted for prosecution of a crime that just very rarely, if ever, gets prosecuted. And on that score, he's right in the sense that I've seen statistics that of those people where you're filling out the form and it says, essentially, do you have a felony conviction, a crime for which you could have been sentenced to more than a year, and people say no, they get rejected. Or people that lie on anything else on there, no, I don't have a domestic violence order or protection. The people that actually get prosecuted, it's like less than 0.1%. So he had a point, his lawyers had a point, that it is selectively, he's being selectively prosecuted, but selectively and vindictively, he's being prosecuted by Merrick Garland's Justice Department. This is Joe Biden's Justice Department. And so he's essentially saying, my father's administration is vindictively prosecuting me just because I'm a Biden. Does that make any sense? Separately, it is not a legal defense. And I hear this all the time. People get arrested for a crime and they'll say, well, that other dude did a lot worse things than me and he's not being prosecuted. And they think that's a defense. It's not a defense. You're out dealing drugs on the corner and police pull up and arrest you because they caught you dealing drugs. You can't say, hold on, there's another guy on the next corner who sells a lot more drugs than I do. That doesn't make you innocent. You either committed the crime or you didn't. And it's not a defense to say, wait a minute, why are you prosecuting me when you're not prosecuting all these other people? People always, as a defense lawyer, I hear that all the time. Oh, wait a minute, I know all these other people that did worse than me and they're not being prosecuted. That may be true, but the only issue in your case is whether you committed the crime. And that's why the judge at the end of this said that the argument his lawyers were making was quote-unquote nonsensical and refused to throw it out. Now, there's a June trial date. I want to say June 3rd, which is coming right up. I mean, we're halfway through April, just about. And so June 3rd, in terms of preparing for a federal criminal court case, is right around the corner. They have yet, though, to make the argument that a lot of us are waiting to hear them make. And that's just going to be fascinating as far as how this plays out with Joe Biden's efforts to actually increase gun control and limit access to firearms by U.S. citizens. It's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out with the argument that is still to be argued by Hunter Biden in court. And I'd be shocked if they don't raise this because it's a legitimate argument, much more so than what they tried yesterday unsuccessfully. We're at the quarter hour. We're going to take a break. I'll come back and talk to you about how really interesting this is going to get when Hunter Biden alleges, his lawyers argue, that the statute that makes it a crime, a felony to lie on the federal form, or makes it a crime and a felony to possess a firearm by someone who's addicted to or a user of illegal drugs, when he comes back and argues that that's unconstitutional, which I'm telling you is right around the corner. That gets interesting really fast. That's what we'll go into. I always want to take your calls, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. Give us a call. Join the conversation. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
O.J. Simpson has died.
Suspected murderer spent years in prison for an armed robbery and kidnapping in Las Vegas.
Another news update is minutes away.
Flooding right here in Indianapolis, 3 inches of rain.
On The Level.
Threats to schools in Lebanon.
They don't think those threats are credible. These messages were a form of swatting.
On The Go.
The Indiana Fever will get lots of national TV attention.
Expected to draft Iowa's Caitlin Clark, #1 overall.
93 WIBC Mobile News.
Guy Relford for the Indiana Gun Club. You know, I had Gordon Camilla, the events coordinator, out at Indiana Gun Club here on the show last week. We had a lot of fun, and go back and listen to that podcast. But they are a new sponsor of the Gun Guy Show, and they are Indy's premier shotgun club. I know because I shoot sporting clays out there and have a great time. They're located in Fortville, just minutes from Indy. They've got over 2,000 guns in inventory. So they are a high-profile and high-quality gun dealer, as well as being a gun club where you can engage in the shotgun sports. Their clubhouse has the largest selection of shotguns, pistols, and rifles in the area. They sit on 150 acres and offer trap, skeet, sporting clays, and 5-stand. They're open to the public. You don't have to be a member. They have plenty of parking, and they have campground hookups out there as well. They host tournaments and registered shoots. I've shot many of those out there, sometimes doing better than others. But they have fun shoots for different leagues, including the Scholastic Clay Target program that my friend Jim Dunn actually founded, and SCTP is really based out there. They book many different kinds of events on their newly remodeled sporting clay course. You go out there and have a corporate event, a fundraiser, a team building exercise at your company, do client relations, bachelor parties, you name it. They also can cater a meal, and I've been to many of those out there, and they are fabulous. Gordon, who was here on the show last week, is a trained chef, and they put together a great spread when you have an event out there that you actually have them cater as well. Check them out at indianagunclub.com or check them out on 113th Street in Fortville. It's a great place to go engage in the shotgun sports and exercise your Second Amendment rights. That's indianagunclub.com.
What if you could build a six-figure retirement income with almost half the money saved? You heard that right. Get a discount on your retirement creating a six-figure income with 40% less than traditional 401ks and mutual funds. Hi, I'm Brett Kitchen, best-selling author, executive producer, and star in a brand new Hollywood documentary called The Retirement Deception. In this film, we traveled over 20,000 miles interviewing real Americans who've retired successfully with a great lifestyle and peace of mind. They share their stories on how they get more retirement income with the same dollar saved, and the money's never at risk if the market crashes. That's right, if the market crashes 30%, you lose nothing. Even the super wealthy are shifting money to this new strategy because it increases their retirement income or can allow them to stop working years sooner. So if you're over 50 and want a bigger, better retirement with less money saved, call to talk to a specialist and get a free copy of this brand new movie at 800-486-9595. This is a $30 value, but when you call today, you can get it completely free. I'll even cover shipping and handling, no credit card required. Call right now, 1-800-486-9595. That's 1-800-486-9595. Again, that's 1-800-486-9595.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon, you wish would never end.
The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
St. Louis brought the world gooey butter cake. Now Bluebell brings us gooey butter cake ice cream. A cake batter ice cream with a luscious cream cheese swirl and gooey butter cake pieces. It's the gateway to the best in pints and half gallons.
The good old days are being made right now.
The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell ice cream at your favorite grocer. If you can't find it, please ask for it.
Spring in Indy, and if you hate to paint, do what your neighbor Don did. He called Rhino Shield.
Well, the home was built in 1948. Paint on the aluminum siding was peeling, and I couldn't find anyone who would repaint it until I called Rhino Shield.
Rhino Shield's better than paint, and the crew?
Painted all my aluminum siding, and I've got a front porch that runs the whole length of the house, and all the pillars and everything. And once they were gone, I couldn't even tell that they were there.
With Rhino Shield's 25-year transferable warranty, you'll never have to paint your home again. And right now, you can have Rhino Shield for 15% off the regular price.
Well, I've told a lot of people, do the Rhino Shield. It's really a great product, and if you don't want to paint the house, that would be the way to go.
Here's Rhino Shield's Shane Smith.
This offer is limited, so call me at 888-RHINO-41. That's 888-RHINO-41.
Don't paint.
Don't vinyl.
Go Rhino.
Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Tony Katz here for Premier Arms in Brownsburg. This is your premier gun store. Premier Arms has the experience and know-how to help the new gun buyer and the most experienced marksman. They've been in business for over 20 years and have a friendly, knowledgeable staff that wants to help you, not talk down to you. Premier Arms in Brownsburg is family-friendly, so bring the kids. All ages are welcome. Everyone can find what they're looking for at Premier Arms in Brownsburg, 3754 South Green Street. Online at premierarms.com. Tell them Tony Katz sent you, premierarms.com.
Indy's leader in patio installation is now offering a new driveway package. Schedule a free estimate today at IndyDecorativeConcrete.com. That's IndyDecorativeConcrete.com.
Indy Humane. Find your new best friend today. Visit IndyHumane.org.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back to The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So as I mentioned, we're about to see something really interesting in this case involving Hunter Biden. Because here his dad, as I always say, our beloved president, is doing everything he can to eradicate Second Amendment rights in this country. In fact, there's a quote-unquote new rule on so-called unlicensed gun dealers that just got announced last week. And I'm going to talk about that here on the show as well tonight. But what's really interesting is that having failed yesterday in court to get this gun charge against him, actually multiple charges for both lying on the form and then possessing the firearm as a prohibited possessor, having failed to get it thrown out because he's being selectively and vindictively prosecuted by his dad's administration. I'm sorry, got to laugh a little bit at that one. But The next argument he's undoubtedly going to make, and they're crazy if they don't, is that the statute that makes it a crime to possess a firearm as someone who's a user of or addicted to illegal drugs, that it's unconstitutional. And why do I say that? Well, it's because the new test for what is and is not constitutional under the Second Amendment has come out of the Bruin case here from a little over a year ago from the Supreme Court. The new test is based on the text, history, and tradition of the Second Amendment. So text, what does it say? What does it mean? And we've had previous Supreme Court cases, the Heller case from 2008, the McDonald case 2010, that help us a lot with knowing what it means. And as I'm going to talk about in another context later in the show, it protects, the Second Amendment protects those arms, bearable arms, that are commonly used for lawful purposes in the United States. Then separately, in terms of how that right has been regulated in this country, you look at the history and tradition of that regulation, and you look at two particular time frames. You look to the time of the ratification of the Second Amendment, which is 1791, and you look at the timing of the passing of the 14th Amendment, which makes the Bill of Rights, including the Second Amendment, applicable to the states. That's the 14th Amendment, and that was in 1868. So the courts, since Bruin, based on Bruin's instructions, are required to look at the text, history, and tradition of the Second Amendment and say, well, traditionally in this country, including the time of the founding, and the years flowing from that, and from 1868, essentially after the end of the Civil War, what kind of gun regulations were seen as permissible under the Second Amendment? And can you find an analog, a comparative law or laws that say, yes, this particular law is consistent with how the Second Amendment has been regulated, how that's been accepted by the courts in this country? That's how the test now works under the Bruin case. And here's what's interesting. Already we've seen bits and pieces. This is the Gun Control Act of 1968 as modified by the Brady Bill in 1994 and other tweaks since then. So you're talking about the big federal statute that, among other things, defined this list of prohibited possessors. So we're talking about felons. Well, we've already seen decisions that say that nonviolent felons being prohibited from possessing firearms, that's unconstitutional, because if you don't have a history of violence, and if you're not considered to be dangerous, there's not a history and tradition in this country of depriving you of your Second Amendment rights. There's a case right now, it's already been argued. In fact, we should see an opinion here sooner than later from the Supreme Court, deals with someone who's under a domestic violence order of protection. He was never convicted of a crime. And in fact, he went through a civil proceeding where you do not have a right to counsel. You have much fewer, if any, due process protections that you would have in a criminal case. But he had a domestic violence order of protection entered against him in a civil proceeding in which he was not represented by counsel. And the question is it consistent with the history and tradition of regulation of gun rights in this country to deprive this person, who not based on a criminal conviction, but just based on a domestic violence order of protection that was entered after a civil proceeding? The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals down in Texas, a court that oversees Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, and the federal courts in those districts, said, no, that's unconstitutional. And the nonviolent felon thing, again, there are two cases right now that that the Supreme Court is considering whether to take, that both deal with nonviolent felons. And I've talked about these briefly before. One person lied on an application for food stamps. Another one, 20 or 30 years ago, wrote a bad check to a grocery store. And they both got felony convictions out of that, but they're prohibited possessors. They're not violent. They're not dangerous. And in one case, it was found to be constitutional in the lower court, and the other was found to be unconstitutional. Our own Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, one of the more recently named Supreme Court justices, wrote a dissenting opinion when she was on the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. That's the federal circuit that includes Indiana. She wrote a dissenting opinion that said nonviolent felons being prohibited from possessing firearms is unconstitutional under the text, history, and tradition test. So now you've got Hunter Biden looking at 10 plus years in prison, potentially. First offenders, no criminal history, you're probably not going to get the whole Megillah, but you could get a chunk of time in federal prison for violating these laws. An argument he has available to him, and it's a pretty damn good argument, is that it's not consistent with the history and tradition of regulation of Second Amendment for someone who may on occasion use drugs, but is not presently incapacitated. Because you can find some analogs of, well, no, it's okay to not sell a gun to someone who's drunk. All right, well, that makes sense. And that goes back to the time of the formation. But what about if they just drink on occasion, but they're not presently drunk? Are they a prohibited possessor? Well, that gets pretty interesting pretty fast. But get this, if Hunter Biden were to challenge this, let's say it goes up, let's say the Supreme Court takes that case and agrees with Hunter Biden that, oh no, it's not consistent with the text, history, and tradition of the Second Amendment for us to deprive Second Amendment rights of people who are not presently incapacitated, but are just generally users or addicted to illegal drugs, including marijuana, then that law is unconstitutional. Joe Biden's son will have just made available the Second Amendment rights to potentially hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of drug users in this country. And how do you think Dad's going to feel about that? And I think that's absolutely hilarious. Do I think the court would look for an excuse not to go that direction? I could see it. But it could play out that way. And it's just so fascinating to me to look at the machinations going in, I'm sure, among the defense team for Hunter Biden, saying, all right, our job is to make the best arguments we can to avoid our client being convicted of a serious crime. At the same time, the Biden administration going, hold up, you're going to argue what? I think that's some fascinating interplay. We're a little past the bottom of the hour. We're going to take a break. Come back, we're going to shift gears. We're going to talk about, you will never believe who Moms Demand Action. Moms Demand Action was founded as Million Moms for Gun Control, but they got abused pretty badly on social media for naming themselves that because they were, at the time, about 990,000 people short of 1 million. And so they decided to change the name to Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. You never believe who they're quoting. In fact, they played a snippet, a quotation, in their latest promotion for members of Moms Demand Action. If you haven't already seen my post on social media, either at Twitter or X, I guess, or Facebook, this may come as a bit of a surprise, who Moms Demand Action is quoting in order to gain members for a gun control group, Moms Demand Action. That's what we'll go into when we come back. I'm going to take your calls, 317-239-9393, 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Mario Andretti, Tony Kanaan, and Dario Franchitti, champions who have shared their stories at Tales from the Track. This May, WIBC welcomes Indianapolis 500 winner and 6-time IndyCar champion Scott Dixon to share his stories from the greatest track in racing. Monday, May 20th, Scott joins you and Hammer and Nigel for an evening of food, fun, and Tales from the Track. Brought to you by Relay Indiana. Tickets are available now at WIBC.com.
He's a former coach with 2 sons who played professional basketball. Satch Sullinger's a competitive individual, but his golf game was suffering because of painful joints.
Right, that's real important, the golf game. Right, as we get older, we create these bad habits because we're relegated to hit a certain way.
QC Kinetics used regenerative treatments, all natural healing properties from Satch's own body, to restore those damaged joints and get his golf game back on track.
QC Kinetics regenerative medicine is regenerating me, all natural, and that's what I'm about. I'm going to tell everybody why I'm better.
Oh, and by the way, looks like the competitive Satch is back.
We're all in the same boat, and I'm getting better, and I'm watching them stay old.
Go to QCkinetics.com. Get relief and your game back. Call for your complimentary consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 317-559-PAIN. That's 317-559-PAIN. 317-559-PAIN.
The laundry room. For as long as I can remember, this was the only place to get a good Wi-Fi connection. Until we got Xfinity. Now we have Wi-Fi all over the house. So, you're probably wondering why I'm still hanging out in here, when I could be happily streaming in the attic, basement, or literally any other room. Well, the truth is, it's warm in here. And I like the smell of dryer sheets.
Get out of here, weirdo.
Hey, close the door! You're letting cool air in.
That's wall-to-wall Wi-Fi with Xfinity. Now through April 21st, get started with 300 megabit internet for $35 a month for 12 months with a 1-year contract and get free Wi-Fi equipment included for a year. Plus, ask how you can save 40% over T-Mobile in your first year. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY or visit a store today. Requires pre-postponed and auto-pay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. Actual speeds vary. Compares Xfinity Connect More Internet against T-Mobile Home Internet at $60 per month. Regular pricing applies after promo period.
Fox News, I'm Roger Stern. Israel says Iran has launched drones heading towards Israel as Israel braces for an Iranian attack. Meanwhile, President Biden returns to the White House to be at the ready.
The president's consulting with his national security team. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin spoke with his Israeli counterpart, assuring him that Israel could count on full U.S. support.
Fox's Jill Nato, Iran has threatened a retaliation for an attack on an Iranian diplomatic building in Syria. Jury selection set for Monday in the hush money trial of Donald Trump. He says he'll testify.
Yeah, I would testify, absolutely. It's a scam. It's a scam. That's not a trial. That's not a trial. That's a scam.
America is listening to Fox News.
Now if you're heading on home or you're taking a getaway, well, there's so much to see at the crossroads of the USA.
No matter where you're headed, it's nice to know Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. Plus, every Hubler Q-certified vehicle is covered by a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report. Shop any of Hubler's 12 locations and choose from over 2,000 vehicles. Chevys, Fords, GMCs, Buicks, Nissans, Acuras, Mazdas, Hondas, and many more. All makes, all models, certified vehicles, luxury vehicles, even the hard-to-find ones.
'Cause Hubler's got you covered.
No matter where you're headed, it's nice to know Hubler's got you covered. So what drives Indiana? DriveHubler.com.
Cover me!
Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
JMV here from SM's Home and Garden in Bargersville. Tropicals are here and ready to sell. The nursery is open with new shipments arriving daily. Miss M's is ready to beautify your garden and yard this spring. Enjoy this spring weather and plan a trip to Miss M's on State Road 135 in Bargersville. Flowers, trees, shrubs, mulch, and more. Miss M's in Bargersville has it. State Road 135 in Bargersville, just south of Whiteland Road. Miss M's Home and Garden.com. Follow them on social media for daily updates.
Did you know if you have water, storm, or fire damage, the first step is on you? Yikes. It's your responsibility to mitigate damages. Mitigate? Yeah, that's a fancy word for call Michaelis. They'll take it from there, from boarding up, cleaning up, and fixing up, to getting you squared up with your insurance company, which is a whole other mess you can avoid. Make it Michaelis. Call 844-FIX-INDY.
Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. We're thrilled you're with us. And I want to get into what I found completely fascinating, which is moms demand action. This actually is founded by a lady who at the time, Shannon Watts, at the time lived in Zionsville, same town I live in. And I believe this was after Sandy Hook, a horrific school shooting. But she had been a big PR person, I want to say, for Monsanto Company. I mean, she'd had some fairly high-profile corporate jobs, and she portrayed herself as just a stay-at-home mom, which she was anything but historically for her as far as her career goes. Not that there's absolutely anything wrong whatsoever with stay-at-home moms. They're part of what makes this country as exceptional as it is, and we love our stay-at-home moms, so nothing negative there at all. But she founded this group, and again, it originally was, I believe it was called Million Moms for Gun Control, and they didn't have anywhere near to 1 million people, so they got beat up pretty hard on that. But they are a gun control group. They ended up getting sort of brought into the Bloomberg organization. Michael Bloomberg, who started Mayors Against Illegal Guns. He was a former mayor of New York, a huge gun control proponent, and a billionaire. If you follow the Bloomberg publications, that's who we're talking about. And he's a huge gun control proponent, and so he actually brought in Moms Demand Action into his organizations. And I think that's who's footing the bill. That's who's writing the checks. But they came out promoting their organization and looking for members. And in doing so, and this isn't Moms Demand Action Indiana, this is on their national Twitter feed. They came out and with a Twitter post that says, "No one can deny the power and significance of our grassroots army of volunteers who show up each and every time gun safety is on the line in their states." And it says, "Join us in your state, simply text, yada, yada, yada." So they're looking for volunteers. But they said, no one can deny the power and significance of our grassroots army. And they then have played over the top of a number of pictures of the moms with their red T-shirts on in various legislatures around the country. They actually play 46 seconds of a snippet from my show. And I had several people send this to me, and it was fascinating to me because the context of what, and I'll play it for you here so you can hear the whole thing. The context of what I was talking about is I was talking about the need for gun owners and people that support the Second Amendment to be active and to show up when gun-related bills are in the legislature. I was talking about the need for butts in seats and for people to be there in the legislature, people to be sending emails, yes, people to be calling their legislators, absolutely. Fill out the voter surveys, you bet, 100%. But a lot of what we were looking for over time was people to show up. And in that context, I was giving the devil their due a bit. I was giving Moms Demand Action some credit because I was saying, look, here's who's on the other side. Because whatever you want to say about these people, they are habitually wrong about everything. And it's interesting, and you don't want to be hard-hearted about it. But what they do for every gun-related bill, they have, again, they show up. You got to give them credit for that. They've all got their red T-shirts on. They fill the meeting rooms, the hearing rooms, and whatnot. But what they traditionally do is we've got some gun-related bill, and one after the other of these people will get up to testify, and the testimony is always completely unrelated to the particular bill that's being debated. It's basically just guns are bad, guns are dangerous, or, I suffered a terrible loss as a result of gun violence. And you'll hear people get up and they tell heart-wrenching stories. I take nothing away from the emotional impact of what they have to say. I had a 15-year-old who was at a birthday party at a skating rink, and someone drove by and fired shots into the big crowd at the skating rink, and my son was paralyzed. I mean, I've seen that lady. I've spoken at some of the same events where she's been. She's testified for bills. I respect everything about her, and she's experiencing something absolutely horrific. But what you always want to ask, and sometimes legislators have the courage to ask, is that's a horrible story, and everyone is impacted by the heart-wrenching story that you just told, but that factual scenario has absolutely nothing to do with the bill that we're debating. And the strategy seems to be, if they just convince legislators that guns are bad and that bad people use guns to do bad things, that they'll want to pass laws that have nothing to do with the story they just told. And you hear that over and over and over again. And no one wants to be insensitive to losses that people have suffered, to loved ones. I mean, I'm not built like that. I can't just turn a blind eye to that. But it's not an argument for gun control when you're talking about passing laws that no criminal's ever going to follow to begin with, and has nothing to do with the scenario that they want to complain about. And most of our legislators in Indiana have been very good about making that distinction of that's horrible, but it has nothing to do with the bill we're debating today. And so they're habitually wrong on every issue. And they don't have particularly effective speakers. If some of the same people get up and speak, and it's just guns are bad, and everybody kind of sits there, on whatever committee we're in front of and goes, okay, we've heard you say that many times in the past. But in calling for more activism among gun owners, I was giving Moms Demand Action credit for what they are good at, which is showing up. Because you know what? Gun owners, we're really good at voting, and that's where I think our power comes from, because politicians know we vote. We're really good at voting. We're really good at whining on the internet. A lot of people, man, gun-related pages, oh, man, whining about the left, whining about the right, whining about this law or that law, and we're rock star whiners as gun owners. But we also vote, and that's huge. But you know what we're not very good at? And this is the point I was making in this snippet you're about to hear. We're not very good at showing up. That's one of the reasons I founded the 2A Project. And we made a big difference. When we got constitutional carry passed, and this is the point I was making, is that it changed, man. We had people in the blue T-shirts with the 2A Project on them and Lady Liberty on the front with our damn rifle, thank you very much, and shall not be infringed on the back. And I'm proud of that shirt, and a lot of people bought them, and a lot of people showed up at the legislature. But I was in calling for more activism among gun owners. I was giving MDA their due. I got really frustrated. And you've heard me talk about this here on the Gun Guy Show before. I'd show up to these committee hearings. I mean, we fought for constitutional carry for 10 years. Or even like while I was fighting for the self-defense immunity bill that I wrote, and you've heard me talk about many times here. It was introduced and championed by Jim Lucas. We'd show up to fight for that bill. It'd be me, the local NRA guy, and an entire room full of ladies or people in red T-shirts that say Moms Demand Action. And let me tell you, they're vocal, man. They clap, they boo, they make it obvious where their sentiments lie and what they want legislators to do. And the dynamics in the room make a difference. And that's why the point I was making was we need more on our side showing up. But they post that snippet with this little photograph montage saying no one can deny the power and significance of our grassroots army. Oh, I'm sorry, folks. I will deny the power and significance all day long. You know why? Because we won every one of those battles. You fought us on constitutional carry. It took longer than it should have, not because of you, not because of Moms Demand Action. It was because we had cowardly Republicans in charge in the General Assembly for too many years. But we got it done. I talked about the self-defense immunity bill. Man, they fought like hell against that. They said it was going to promote vigilante justice. Has it done that in the 5 years since it passed? Hell no. It's protected law-abiding citizens who defend themselves and their family from frivolous lawsuits, exactly as we said it would. So we've won every battle. So bragging about the power and significance of MDA, I'm sorry, the facts don't bear that out. Not here in Indiana, I'll guarantee you. But it's fascinating that I apparently am the new love child of Moms Demand Action because they're quoting me when they're out looking for members. I found that fascinating. I'll tell you what, we got way past the 3/4 hour. We'll take a break. We'll come back for a very short segment, and I think we got a caller or two. We'll see if we have time to fit that in when we come back. We'll be right back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Mario Andretti, Tony Kanaan, and Dario Franchitti, champions who have shared their stories at Tales from the Track. This May, WIBC welcomes Indianapolis 500 winner and 6-time IndyCar champion Scott Dixon to share his stories from the greatest track in racing. Monday, May 20th, Scott joins you and Hammer and Nigel for an evening of food, fun, and Tales from the Track. Brought to you by Relay Indiana. Tickets are available now at WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. You know, our most popular class is our Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class. We've got 2 of those coming up. We've got one on May 18th at Indy Arms. This is a Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. We'd love to see you there. $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. And then, I'm just talking about Moms Demand Action. Well, here's a group that's actually near and dear to my heart. Armed Women of America are having an Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class at Parabellum Firearms and Indoor Range out in Avon. So it's only for members of Armed Women of America, but hey, you go to armedwomen.org, you can join and then sign up for this class. Again, $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. You can sign up for either one or both at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Now is the perfect time for you to call the Bath Authority to get your project you've been putting off done this spring. Because the Bath Authority has an unbelievable deal going on. Call today at 317-532-5711. 317-532-5711. Schedule your free in-home estimate and get $1,000 off a new shower or bath, plus 36 months of interest-free financing. That's right. All you got to do is call today at 317-532-5711. Schedule a free in-home estimate with the Bath Authority and get $1,000 off a new shower or bath plus 36 months of interest-free financing. Walk-in tubs, replacement showers, tub-to-shower conversions, and more. The Bath Authority does it all. 317-532-5711 for $1,000 off a new shower or bath plus 36 months of interest-free financing. TheBathAuthority.com. Tell them Rob sent you.
Paid for by government. Did you hear? A secret hoard of 1893 $10 gold Liberty coins has been found. These gorgeous 1893p gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck, and less than 200 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this secret U.S. gold coin discovery a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you can own a piece of the hoard. When you call, you are guaranteed an 1893 gold Liberty struck at the iconic Philadelphia Mint. With limited availability, you must call now. These 1893 dated gold coins are still in uncirculated condition with brilliant luster. That is 131 years of history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-473-3993. Call now and you'll receive a free bonus of $50 value free with every order. Call 1-800-473-3993 now to secure your 1893p $10 gold Liberty coins before they sell out. That's 1-800-473-3993.
Attention seniors, you're invited to the grand opening of CenterWell Indy West. CenterWell offers primary care centered on seniors, so come celebrate on Thursday, April 18th at 5115 West Washington Street in Indianapolis from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Enjoy food, music, and more at this free community event. Plus, tour the new doctor's office and meet the care team. For details, call 317-754-7291 or visit meetcenterwellindiana.com.
Tune in to the Absolute Retirement Planning Show.
When retirement comes about, we're now relying on what we have saved to meet those needs.
Sundays at 9 a.m. right here on 93 WIBC.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. As I mentioned, we have a real short segment here at the top of the hour. We come back. I'm going to talk about a new rule, quote unquote, put out by the Biden administration that has to do with unlicensed dealers. And actually, Joseph has called in with a question that I think bears directly on this. Joseph, if you're listening, man, if you wouldn't mind being patient through the break at the top of the hour. We've only got less than a minute here before we have to break, and I don't want to have that short of a conversation with you. But unlicensed dealers, what exactly are we talking about there? And is this really a change at all in terms of a new ATF rule? That's what we'll get into when we come back. Right now, we're at the top of the hour. We're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hey guys, it's Rob from my friends at Universal Windows Direct, and man, they just have an incredible deal going on right now. You can't beat it. Call Universal Windows Direct today at 317-659-7574, and for every 2 windows you buy, get the next 2 free. Buy 2, get 2. Buy 4, get 4. Buy 20, get 20. There's no limit. Plus, they'll upgrade your new windows to triple pane glass for free. That means extra protection from the elements, a consistent temperature in your home, increased energy efficiency, and reduced heating and cooling costs, plus a quieter and more comfortable home. And in addition to these incredible windows, they're giving you such a great price, Universal Windows Direct, right now when you call 317-659-7574, 317-659-7574, to schedule your free in-home estimate today. Buy 2, you get 2 free. Plus, yes, there's more. If you mention my name, Rob Kendall, you get $250 off your project. Universal Windows Direct, tell them Rob sent you.
Retirement. When you picture your retirement, what do you see? Travel, relaxation, hobbies, more time with the people you love? Or are you met with uncertainty and concern? Whatever emotion the word retirement conjures up for you, Howard Bailey Financial is ready to help. Our financial advisors are not just experts in retirement strategies, they are your partners in crafting a personalized retirement plan that aligns with your dreams and aspirations. At Howard Bailey, we prioritize one thing above all else, your peace of mind. Don't leave your retirement planning to chance. Instead, call 866-482-9559 now to schedule your personal financial review and see how Howard Bailey can help give you confidence in your retirement goals. Again, call 866-482-9559.
This endorsement was not provided by a client of Howard Bailey. This individual was compensated for this endorsement. For more information, visit howardbailey.com/TS1.
The deals and specials are sizzling hot. It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Howard County Fairgrounds in Greentown. The best dealers in the region. Hundreds of tables. Just $6 for adults. Kids 12 and under get in free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult. Buy, sell, trade. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Howard County Fairgrounds in Greentown. For more info, visit CentralIndianaGunShows.com.
My husband, Bob, has Parkinson's, and he needs more help now, and I need more support to help him. Thanks to Indiana Pathways for Aging, we're getting the support we need to help him right here at home, like with meal prep and basic personal care, and even respite support for me.
Pathways provides Hoosier Medicaid members, age 60 and over, support for care their way, so they can live life their way. Eligible members can select a plan now. Call 87-PATHWAY-4 or visit in.gov/pathways.
Broadcasting from the Technology Recycler Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News, 93 WIBC, WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Drones are in the air. I'm Roger Stern, Fox News. Israeli Defense Forces confirm Iran has launched drones aimed at Israel today. The drones expected to reach Israeli territory in a matter of hours. Fox's Trey Yingst has more from Tel Aviv.
Israeli forces are on high alert tonight, bracing for an Iranian response. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant releasing a statement saying they are closely monitoring a planned attack by Iran and its proxies. Israeli officials telling Fox News they believe this attack could come in phases, understanding there are clear indications across the region that point to a flashing red light of an Iranian attack. The Jordanians tonight closing their airspace. Israel's Home Front Command announcing that all educational activities across Israel have been canceled. They're also limiting gatherings up to 1,000 people.
Israel has been on heightened alert since an airstrike killed 2 Iranian generals in Syria. Iran blamed Israel for the attack and vowed revenge. President Biden cut short his Delaware weekend getaway to consult with advisors about what's happening. A man fatally stabbed 6 people at a mall in Sydney, Australia today and then was shot dead by police. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese.
It would appear that this person has acted alone. The motives are not known yet, and speculation on that would not be helpful at this time.
Police at this stage do not believe the attack was terror-related. The American Society of Health System Pharmacists says there were shortages of more than 300 medications in the first 3 months of the year. America is listening to Fox News.
I'm Dana Perino, co-host of The Five and co-anchor of America's Newsroom. Join me for my brand new podcast, Perino on Politics. Listeners of Everything Will Be Okay will gravitate toward this podcast too. Every Monday, I'm going to talk to people I trust in politics as they tell me what they're seeing and thinking in the 2024 election cycle. As they prep me to cover the upcoming election, they'll prep you, the voters, too. Make sure you subscribe to this series on FoxNewsPodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts and leave a rating and review.
From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
Hey there, it's me, Kennedy. Make sure to check out my podcast, Kennedy Saves the World. It is 5 days a week. Every week, we check in with Jimmy Fallon, bring in authors for the book club, and even treat some of your favorite Fox personalities to a very special happy hour. Download and listen at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
Kennedy Saves the World. America's listening to Fox News.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
The victims identified. I'm Wes Woodward, and here's what's trending this hour. Lawrence police investigating after 3 people were killed in a shooting at an apartment complex Friday evening. LPD confirming the identities of the 3 victims as 19-year-old Aaliyah Wortman of Marion, 19-year-old London Coleman of Warsaw, and 27-year-old Spencer Lawson Jr. If you know anything about this, please call the Lawrence Police Department at 317-545-7575 or contact Crime Stoppers. 1 person is dead following a plane crash in Tippecanoe County that was discovered Friday afternoon. Sasha Nixon reports.
The plane crashed west of US 231. Purdue Aviation owns the aircraft, though this does not mean it has any direct connection to the university or students. There was a dead body at the scene, but police have not yet publicly identified it. Officers and the FAA are still investigating. Sasha Nixon, 93, WIBC Mobile News.
Terminated pregnancy reports contain personal information, which is why the Democrat candidate for Attorney General says they should stay private. Donnie Burgess reports.
Releasing abortion records would uphold Indiana laws, says Attorney General Todd Rokita. But his opponent, Destiny Wells, says it's a scare tactic that puts people at risk.
I side with the opinion of the public access counselor, Luke Britt, in that we have so few abortions happening now in Indiana that you can use those reports and glean information.
She says it's unnecessary and will drive more doctors out of Indiana. Donnie Burgess, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Now here's the forecast in the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
Tonight, clouds increase to partly cloudy, low temperatures in the mid-50s. Sunday, there may be an isolated shower or storm, primarily in eastern Indiana. High temperatures in the mid to upper 70s. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
Healthcare.gov is here for you when life happens. If you lost your health coverage because of turning 26, going off Medicaid, leaving your job, or moving, you could be eligible to enroll in new coverage now. And if you need to update your coverage because of marriage or having a baby, you could also be eligible. But don't wait. There's a limited time to enroll. Check your eligibility at healthcare.gov today. Life happens. Get covered. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Hey, it's JMV. The Tropicals are here, and shipments are arriving daily in the nursery at Miss M's Home and Garden, State Road 135, just south of Whiteland Road. MissM'sHomeandGarden.com.
Through their service, veterans have our backs. Now we should have theirs. Learn more at GotYour6.org.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment. And this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for hour number 2 of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. We're glad you're with us. And the Biden administration here just this last week announced what they're calling a new rule. Now, when they say rule, what are they talking about? Well, there are the laws passed by Congress, but then administrative agencies have their own rules in terms of how they interpret and or enforce those statutes. And the ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, actually the full name of which is Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. So BATFE is the appropriate acronym. But what we all call ATF, they've been real active in the rural area over the last several years because that's where we've got all these complete abominations, starting, frankly, with one that ATF did at President Trump's bidding, which was to make bump stocks illegal. And what a lot of us said at the time is this was a horrible precedent, and it was very disappointing that President Trump is the one who ordered it. But after the Las Vegas shooting, where a bump stock or multiple bump stocks were allegedly used, President Trump came out and said, oh, bump stocks are gone. I'm telling the ATF to make these illegal. Well, that's not ATF's job. That's Congress's job to make something illegal. Congress had made machine guns illegal unless they're registered under the National Firearms Act, and they had amended the National Firearms Act to say that no new machine guns would be registered after April of 1986. So if you're going to define something as a machine gun, and it wasn't registered already before 1986, it's going to be illegal. Well, there weren't any bump stocks around in 1986. So by saying, and this is what ATF did, they said that bump stocks make a gun a machine gun. So they're an accessory whose only use is to take a semi-automatic rifle and convert it to a machine gun. That makes it illegal under the National Firearms Act. To do so, they had to completely bastardize. They had to completely change the definition of machine gun. And that's not the ATF's job to change the law passed by Congress. Congress defined what a machine gun is. And they had to go through this ridiculous twist of logic to say, oh, no, bump stocks make a semi-automatic and automatic. They don't. It still takes a separate function of the trigger to produce the next round. But anyway, the ATF didn't stop there. And again, this was horrible. This was a precedent under President Trump because Biden took full advantage of it. That's where we got the pistol brace fiasco. That's where we got the ghost gun regulation. And it goes on and on. And so what we've now seen is presidents who want to pass gun control are just telling the ATF to make it happen on an administrative agency regulation basis. And that's not the way it's supposed to work. And under the vesting clause of the Constitution, the legislative power shall be vested in the Congress. When you got executive agencies, these are agencies that report to the president, the executive. They're not part of Congress. They're part of the executive branch. When they're changing the law, laws that can put people in jail for 10 years, that's not the way the founders envisioned it. And that was a big mistake Trump made by starting down that road. And Biden's taken full advantage of it. Well, what he's also now done is they've come out with a new rule. And I haven't seen the rule yet. I've just seen media on this. And I'm assuming the actual text of the rule is going to be available this week. And I'll have more to say once I get into the specifics. What they're saying now is unlicensed dealers, including at gun shows, unlicensed dealers will now have to perform background checks. And I saw that announcement, and I'm like, hold up. This is not a new rule. It's simply saying that they're going to enforce existing law. And why do I say that? It's because there's really no such thing as a legal unlicensed dealer. If you're a dealer and if you're a dealer of firearms and you don't have a federal firearms license, you're breaking the law. You're looking at 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine today. And I've been warning people since the closing days of the Obama administration that they're cracking down on this. They've been cracking down on this for years, and they're continuing to do so, and they're going to accelerate the extent to which they're cracking down. And why do I say that? Because they're looking at people who are buying and selling a significant number of guns, saying you're a dealer, meaning you're engaged in the business of selling firearms, you don't have a license, you're going to jail. And it's the license, having a federal firearms license is what legally compels you to do background checks on every person you sell a gun to, because dealers have to do that. Private individuals don't. But if you're engaged in the business, you have to have a license. So saying unlicensed dealers have to start doing background checks makes no sense to me, because it suggests that unlicensed dealers have been legal before now. And I think this is a good time to go to Joseph's question, who has called in with a question about private sales. Joseph, man, thanks so much for your patience, my brother, and welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Well, you're scaring me. Am I an unlicensed dealer just because I might want to sell a gun to somebody? I was at Indy Arms this morning, and I was looking at some pistols, and there was a young man standing there, 18 or 19, talking to the salesman about the finer points of owning a pistol between the ages of 18 and 21.
Yeah. And
it turns out, from what the salesman said, you can buy one at 18, but you can't buy it through an FFL.
That's right.
And
under federal law, under federal law, the dealer can't sell a handgun to a person under 21.
But I could sell it to him.
Right.
But I couldn't do an FFL check through the store on him.
Right.
So I'm wondering if he seemed like a nice young man, and I've got a pistol. It's too small for me. It's just a little subcompact, and he's worried about riding around Indianapolis with his new wife in the car. And I'm thinking, well, I've got a pistol I could sell you. Meet me here next Saturday if you want to see it. And now I'm wondering, I can't do a background check on him. If I sell him a pistol and he does something nefarious with it, what does that mean for me?
Yeah, well, first of all, the law in Indiana is that you can't transfer a firearm, a handgun in particular, to a person who's ineligible to purchase their own handgun from a dealer, except for reasons of age. So the Indiana legislature carved out exactly the scenario you're talking about, Joseph, where they said, well, no, if somebody is a felon or they're a prohibited possessor and can't buy their own gun from a dealer, then you can't sell them a handgun either, except if they're only ineligible to buy a handgun from a dealer for reasons other than age. So the law says, yes, I can sell a gun to an 18, 19, 20-year-old. I can't know that they're ineligible for some other reason, like they're a felon or whatever. But if I don't know, and there's no obligation to check, and a lot of people would comment to say there ought to be, and that's why you're talking about, well, yeah, but how do you do that? Because you can't do a NICS check. You know, the FBI, if you call the FBI, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System run by the FBI out of Wheeling, West Virginia, and said, hey, I want to sell a gun to this guy. I want to do a background check on him. They'll go, well, are you an FFL? And you say no. And they're going like, we don't do that. So what a lot of us have done over the years, Joseph, is we've said, well, let me see your Indiana license to carry handgun. Because you can get one of those at 18. Now, again, we have constitutional carry now, but
he doesn't even need that now.
What's that?
He doesn't even need that now, right?
Yeah, well,
have a license to carry.
Yeah, but licenses are still available. So you can say, show me a license to carry, because a lot of people go out and get their licenses when they're 18. That tells you that he's had a background check run by the state police of Indiana, and then you know they're eligible. And what a lot of us have done in addition with that is saying, I also need to see your Indiana driver's license, because the license to carry doesn't have a picture on it. So that the driver's license is telling you two things. They're an Indiana resident, since it's illegal to sell a handgun to a resident of a different state. And it also telling you that they're the same person whose name's on the license. That's how you get around that. But the law says you just can't know that they're ineligible for a reason other than age. Now, that's one point. That's selling a gun, transferring a gun to an ineligible person. The other point is, are you now engaged in the business because you just sold a gun to this guy? One gun, you know, in that context is not going to get you anywhere close to ATF or FBI or the federal government saying, oh, yeah, you're engaged in the business. But get this, Joseph, there's no particular number. Like people look at it and say, you know, like, I don't know, somebody told me one time that if you sell more than 10 cars in a year, you got to be, you know, a licensed automobile dealer. I have no idea whether that's true or not. I've just been told that. And I'm sure that, you know, or selling houses, you know, you sell X number, and I don't know, maybe you have to have a realtor's license. I don't know how any of those things work, but there's no particular number when it comes to guns. It's just the statute says if you're repetitively buying and selling firearms with the principal motivation of making a profit. So if you're doing that, and do we know the number? No, because it's not published anywhere. If you go to part of it has to do with how you hold yourself out. If you go to a gun show and set up a table, I go to a gun show and I set up a table that says Guys Guns, and I have business cards printed up. Guys Guns, best deals in the Midwest. And I'm sitting there and I'm taking credit cards or whatever, and I got my cash box, and I sell one gun to somebody. There is a possibility I could be prosecuted, and there's precedent for this, for being engaged in the business, because I'm holding myself out essentially as a dealer. But that's under existing law, and it's all existed well before this supposed new change. So the new change saying unlicensed dealers have to do background checks, we're a little past the quarter hour. We come back, we'll talk about, does that really change anything, or does it not at all? And that's what we'll get into when we come back. And thanks to Joseph for his patience and for the excellent question. We have more people that have called in. We'll go back to the phone lines as well. Right now, we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
Joe Biden speaks gibberish. Joe Biden has a hard time walking. He can't find his way off of a stage. Don't give me this crap that Joe Biden's cognitively all there and way superior to Donald Trump in that category. This stapler that we've got in the studio is completely more qualified to be running this country right now than Joe Biden.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for the law office at Guy Relford. You know, one thing we do at the law office that we really enjoy doing are expungements and also restorations. If you've lost your gun rights because of a criminal conviction, you know, an awful lot of those can be expunged. Not all, but certainly a lot. And other types of convictions that may have lost your gun rights for you, we can help you out on a lot of those. If you'd like to get a consultation and talk about what you might have on your record and whether or not A restoration of your Second Amendment rights is available. Just contact us through the website. It's relfordlaw.com. That's relfordlaw.com.
Greetings from R&R Agency, your Indiana health insurance pros. And a thank you to our loyal customers for making our agency a national sales leader for the 7th straight year. We recently saved a family of 4 over $500 monthly when compared to their ACA plan. You know it's still Obamacare, right? We've recently saved a 61-year-old retiring couple over $600 when compared to their COBRA plan. Breaking news. We are now able to offer health insurance to employer groups of all sizes with 2 of the largest insurers in the Midwest. We'll be here when you need us. Quoting my favorite president, what the heck do you have to lose? We can help. As always, God bless America, or at least what's left of her.
Call Ron or Terry at 317-563-0868. That's 317-563-0868. Or go to rragency.org. That's rragency.org. A health plan managed and chosen by you, not the government.
Mortgage rates have lowered going into the spring selling season. Now is the time to act to maximize your equity. Mark Dietel has the plan and experience to sell your home fast and for maximum value this spring. Maybe you want maximum equity from your home, but not sure how. Mark Dietel guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Listen to what Katie and Chris in Perry Township had to say about working with Mark Dietel. Sadly, our marriage was ending, and we were both ready to sell the home and move forward ASAP. Mark Dietel is the man for this job. Our home sold for more than we anticipated in 24 hours with 17 showings and multiple offers thanks to the Mark Dietel team. Call the agent I trust and recommend and the agent who guarantees your home sold or he'll buy it. Call Mark Dietel, 317-755-4232 for all the details or go online to markdietel.com. That's Mark, DIETEL.com.
Attention seniors, you're invited to the grand opening of CenterWell Indy West. CenterWell offers primary care centered on seniors, so come celebrate on Thursday, April 18th at 5115 West Washington Street in Indianapolis from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Enjoy food, music, and more at this free community event. Plus, tour the new doctor's office and meet the care team. For details, call 317-754-7291 or visit meetcenterwellindiana.com.
Say hello to the power, performance, and precision of Ram trucks at Kahlo and Noblesville. The strength and style of Ram, combined with the experience and service you'll only find at Kahlo.
Right now, save up to 15% off MSRP on select in-stock 2024 Ram 1500 Tradesman 4x4 models.
See the massive inventory of Ram trucks at hellokahlo.com or visit the new showroom on State Road 37 in Noblesville.
All rebates and incentives included in final discount. Stock number KCN 240157. Price excludes tax, title, and fees. Not all buyers will qualify. See dealer for details. Offer ends 4/30/24.
Smokey the Bear.
Then you know why Smokey tells you when he sees you passing through. Remember, please be careful. It's the least that you can do.
What you decide, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
After 80 years of learning his wildfire prevention tips, Smokey Bear lives within us all. Learn more at smokeybear.com. And remember,
only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Indy's leader in patio installation is now offering a new driveway package. Schedule a free estimate today at IndyDecorativeConcrete.com. That's IndyDecorativeConcrete.com.
Find the path to recovery that works for you. Learn more at cdc.gov/stopoverdose.
Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. Man, this show is flying. I have a lot more I want to get into, but I'll tell you what, we always like it when we have folks call in. So let's go back to the phone lines, and Fred has called the Gun Guy Show, man. Fred, welcome.
Thank you, Guy.
Yeah, what you got for us?
My question is, the Fifth Amendment says you can't self-incriminate yourself, so is it possible that lying on a form could be a defense against Hunter Biden or for Hunter Biden?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So, like the question, are you a user of or addicted to illegal drugs? If you say yes, you've just confessed to a drug crime, right? So Correct. You're being compelled to be a witness against yourself. It's an interesting question, Fred. Is that what you were asking? I want to make sure I got it right first.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I don't think that would fly, Fred. It's an interesting question, and I'm glad you raised it. I don't think so, because the Fifth Amendment doesn't say you can't incriminate yourself. It says you can't be compelled to incriminate yourself, and that's by the government. And I'm sure you're thinking, well, hold on. I mean, if you have to fill out the form to buy the gun, and the government's telling you they have to fill the form out, then they're saying you can't lie on the form or else you go to prison. Therefore, just answer the truth is to confess to a crime. You're being compelled to confess to the crime. I don't think that would hold up. In fact, I'm 99.9% sure it wouldn't hold up, Fred. And the reason is because you're not compelled to buy a gun, and you're not compelled to buy a gun from a dealer. So you've made the decision to go in and purchase a gun from a dealer. And if you are a user of or addicted to illegal drugs and you're doing that, then ostensibly you're attempting to commit a crime. And that's why I don't think that the compelling part, that is the government compelling you to be a witness against yourself or to incriminate yourself, would hold up, because the government's not compelling you to go buy the gun to begin with. So that's where I think legally that just wouldn't hold up. Let's go back to the phone lines. Bud has called in. Bud, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Yeah, hey, guy. Just curious if you've come across this Missouri bill, Senate Bill 727, changing the definition of homeschool to school and banning firearms in such schools.
Yeah, I've seen, Bud, some social media on it, and I took a brief look at it. Be honest with you, I have a hard enough time keeping on top of everything that's going on in Congress at the federal level and here in Indiana without chasing down what's going on in the other 49 states. But I know exactly what you're talking about. And, it's just interesting because this is actually an issue that came up during COVID, because people were concerned with, hold on, if my kid is attending school at home now, does that make my home a school for purposes of the Gun-Free School Zones Act, either the state one or the federal one? And am I now looking at 10 years in prison because I've got guns in my home and my kids attending school virtually through the computer while they're sitting at home? So people looked at that, and the answer is no, because typically that only refers to a licensed school. For instance, here in Indiana, you have to be a licensed school or a licensed daycare. Now, it does include private, parochial, and public schools, so it doesn't have to be a public school, but it has to be a licensed school for it to be considered a school. What they're doing in Missouri in terms of how they're actually changing the homeschool law, I do not know. If they're making them meet their definition of school for purposes of their version of a Gun-Free School Zones Act, then I could say, yeah, that is an issue. I will tell you one thing, and this is something, I brag on some of the good changes we've made to Indiana law over the years. One thing I fought for, and this is it's probably 8 years ago or so now, maybe more. I don't remember talking about it on the show, and I've had the show coming up on 9 years, so maybe it was more than that. But the definitions of the Indiana version of Gun-Free School Zones Act, where it's illegal under Indiana law to have a gun on school property. Again, there's a federal statute as well. They're very different. You have to comply with both, obviously. But the Indiana statute that said it's a felony to possess a gun on school property, it used to say that applied to school property. That's the actual property owned by the school bus. And then it also included property being used by a school for a school function. And think about that a little bit. Property being used by a school for a school function. So would your kid attending classes virtually during COVID be property being used by a school for a school function? Well, hell, if they're sitting there for 6 or 7 or however many hours a day attending school, there's certainly an argument that would be included. But I fought for and worked with some pro 2A legislators to get that taken out of the statute. And I was using examples like, man, I'm at the art museum, minding my own business. I'm lawfully carrying my handgun with my license as required at the time. And I'm totally law abiding. I'm totally compliant with the law. But all of a sudden, a couple of school buses pull up and some junior high school kids come trundling into the art museum as part of a field trip. Now, is that property being used by a school for a school function? Sure it is. Am I now committing a felony because some school kids showed up to the place where I was lawfully exercising my Second Amendment rights before the school kids got there? I'm in a restaurant and buses pull up, and now a bunch of elementary kids walk in. They're stopping to get lunch, coming back from the zoo as part of a field trip. Is that restaurant now property being used by a school for a school function? I'm staying at a hotel, and a high school is having their prom there in the ballroom. Isn't that hotel now property being used by a school for a school function? So I use those examples in arguing in the legislature for why that ought to be taken out, when we did successfully several years ago. And I think that helps us a lot if anybody ever tried to make the argument that homeschooling somehow made the home a school for purposes of the current bill, the current law. Now, if they could change the law, as apparently they're trying to do in Missouri, and that would be an issue. But surely, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly the statewide politics in Missouri, but I'd have a hard time believing that that gun owners in Missouri would allow that to happen. But let's keep an eye on that, although it's not a huge priority for me since I'm really focused on federal law in Indiana. We're a little past the bottom of the hour, so we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Mario Andretti, Tony Kanaan, and Dario Franchitti, champions who have shared their stories at Tales from the Track. This May, WIBC welcomes Indianapolis 500 winner and six-time IndyCar champion Scott Dixon to share his stories from the greatest track in racing. Monday, May 20th, Scott joins you and Hammer and Nigel for an evening of food, fun, and Tales from the Track. Brought to you by Relay Indiana. Tickets are available now at WIBC.com.
And the allergy season is getting a jump start on all of us, and we really need to get ready to fight back. How about having Zero Res help you take on dust and dander and allergens and even bacteria in your carpets with a great spring deal? Get 3 rooms Zero Resified starting at just $139 and take $75 off your air duct cleaning to get that true spring cleaning feel. It's unbelievable and kind of scary just how much of the uglies are in our carpets. And it's because those carpets are the largest air filter in the home. The Zero Res service is easy to line up. You can go online at ZeroResIndy.com, do the scheduling at your convenience. And don't forget the ZR water difference. No soap, no residue, no harsh chemicals, leaving things really clean. Now mention WIBC, get 3 rooms of carpet cleaning starting at $139, plus you'll get $75 off the air duct cleaning too. Call 317-388-5141. or book things online at ZeroResIndy.com.
Now if you're heading on home or you're taking a getaway, well, there's so much to see at the crossroads of the USA.
No matter where you're headed, it's nice to know Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. Plus, every Hubler Q-certified vehicle is covered by a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report. Shop any of Hubler's 12 locations and choose from over 2,000 vehicles. Chevys, Fords, GMCs, Buicks, Nissans, Acuras, Mazdas, Hondas, and many more. All makes, all models, certified vehicles, luxury vehicles, even the hard-to-find ones.
'Cause Hubler's got you covered.
No matter where you're headed, it's nice to know Hubler's got you covered. So what drives Indiana? DriveHubler.com.
Cover me!
Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
Fox News, I'm Jack Callahan. Iran beginning its attack on Israel, launching waves of attack drones.
Israeli sources telling Fox News tonight they have dispatched fighter jets. They are in the air as we speak.
and they are going to try and shoot down some of these attack drones that are headed toward Israel.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv. President Biden returning to the White House from his home in Delaware for national security briefings. A knife-wielding attacker has slashed 6 people to death at a shopping mall in Sydney, Australia.
After a few minutes, I saw like a guy with a knife running and chasing people. And as he walked just past beside me, I heard 2 or 3 gunshots, and the guy was neutralized.
That man, an eyewitness, a police officer who happened to be at the mall, shot and killed the attacker. America is listening to Fox News.
What if you could build a 6-figure retirement income with almost half the money saved? You heard that right. Get a discount on your retirement, creating a 6-figure income with 40% less than traditional 401ks and mutual funds. Hi, I'm Brett Kitchen, best-selling author, executive producer, and star in a brand new Hollywood documentary called The Retirement Deception. In this film, we traveled over 20,000 miles interviewing real Americans who've retired successfully with a great lifestyle and peace of mind. They share their stories on how they get more retirement income with the same dollars saved, and the money's never at risk if the market crashes. That's right, if the market crashes 30%, you lose nothing. Even the super wealthy are shifting money to this new strategy because it increases their retirement income or can allow them to stop working years sooner. So if you're over 50 and want a bigger, better retirement with less money saved, call to talk to a specialist and get a free copy of this brand new movie at 800-486-9595. This is a $30 value, but when you call today, you can get it completely free. I'll even cover shipping and handling, no credit card required. Call right now, 1-800-486-9595. That's 1-800-486-9595. Again, that's 1-800-486-9595.
The deals and specials are sizzling hot. It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Howard County Fairgrounds in Greentown. The best dealers in the region, hundreds of tables, just $6 for adults. Kids 12 and under get in free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult. Buy, sell, trade. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Howard County Fairgrounds in Greentown. For more info, visit CentralIndianaGunShows.com.
Reach your fitness goals in 2024 with the 20-minute once-a-week program at Exercise Inc. 5 locations now in Fishers. Visit exerciseinc.com.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. Learn more at helpnokidhungry.org.
He's a Second Amendment attorney. He's an NRA certified firearms instructor. He's the gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. And talking about this quote-unquote new rule that the Biden administration in particular is saying is going to, quote, close the gun show loophole. So what are they talking about? What does this do? What does it not do? I don't think it changes anything, frankly. But it may denote a change in, or at least an increased level of enforcement of ATF of existing law. But it doesn't change the law in any way. The head of the Brady group, the Brady campaign, came out and said, this rule will save lives by ensuring those who engage in the business of selling firearms are taking the necessary precautions we require of all other licensed gun dealers. In doing so, we can mitigate the proliferation of firearms in our communities and yada, yada, yada. Well, to require unlicensed dealers to do background checks is kind of a non sequitur. What we're really talking about doing is simply prosecuting people who are engaged in the business of selling firearms who don't have a license. And that form of prosecution has been available to the federal government for decades and decades. I know because I've defended the cases. I have 3 of these cases pending right now. Well, people are accused, and these are, they fall into 2 categories. I started to say these are typically people who, yes, go to gun shows, set up tables, and sell a bunch of guns, and have been doing so for a while. But it's not just that, because the new form of prosecution I'm seeing is where the ATF is focused on people who have bought and sold a whole bunch of guns on internet sites like Arms List or Gun Broker. And let me tell you, the ATF, I mean, this should be obvious, is monitoring the hell out of Arms List and Gun Broker. And I'll guarantee you there's some of the pages on Facebook where Facebook supposedly ruled out, selling guns on Facebook. You used to see a lot of it before Facebook changed its policy. And now people are on there and they kind of have this dumb code system where they'll say, I don't know, how many beans did you cook in your chili tonight? Oh, by the way, here's my Glock Model 2145. And they're basically saying, offer, how much money will you give me for this gun? I mean, they're kind of goofy, and I think Facebook pretty much always figures them out and closes down those pages. And I'm the moderator on a couple of gun-related pages on Facebook, and you have to have a very strict no gun sale policy. But my point is, whatever internet site, certainly the actual gun selling sites like Arms List and Gun Broker, ATF is monitoring those. They're seeing who's got guns up for sale. They're seeing who's sold a bunch of guns. But I'll tell you what they're also focused on. They're focused on tracing back guns found at crime scenes. And they're really focused on Chicago crime scenes when it comes to Indiana. And I know this because I have represented and am representing clients caught up in this, where they find that 3 or 4 guns over some period of time were recovered at crime scenes in Chicago. Chicago doesn't matter where, but they'll trace those back to who bought those guns originally from an FFL, because they'll find the 4473 form that you filled out there at the gun dealer. And if you've sold X number of guns, number it almost doesn't matter, but if you've bought multiple guns from an FFL, then sold them in private transactions, and multiple guns show up at crime scenes, you're going to get a knock on the door from ATF. It's just happening. It's happening left and right. And this has been going on. I mentioned the close of the Obama administration. Obama was focused on, quote unquote, closing the gun show loophole too. And so what they did is they simply the ATF put out what was called a guidance document. It was in late 2015. It may have actually come out after the first of the year. But this was in response to an executive order issued by President Obama. And it was called, Do I Need a Firearms License? And it was a guidance document, quote unquote, telling people how the ATF enforces the law that says if you're engaged in the business of selling firearms, you have to have a license. And if you don't have a license and you're engaged in the business, you go to prison. I even worry about this for some people I know that are acquaintances that just always seem to have 4 or 5 guns on Gun Broker. And listen, I've never bought a gun off Gun Broker. I've never sold a gun on Arms List or Gun Broker. I've never bought a gun from Arms List. But I'll go look at prices occasionally and what I'll go look at them. And you know what? You notice some people just always have 3 or 4 guns out there. I'll guarantee you the ATF is noticing that too. They got people whose job it is to monitor those sites. So this new rule focused on gun shows, apparently, saying that unlicensed dealers have to do background checks. That's not really what they're talking about. That's the way they're framing it, because they think that sounds better, because people like the require background checks part. But all they're talking about doing is enforcing existing law that says if you're engaged in the business, you have to have a license. And if you don't, you're looking at 5 years in prison, as I mentioned. And by the way, is there a gun show loophole? No. There's nothing specific about a gun show that changes the law. If I'm doing something that would be illegal, if I'm engaged in the business of selling guns at gun shows, first of all, ATF's there, man. If there's a gun show going on, you can just count on it. ATF's there. They're taking pictures. They're monitoring people. I've had clients who were at these things where they came up or someone came up saying, "Hey, man, I've got a felony, but I'll pay a little extra for this gun if you sell it to me anyway." You know the likelihood that that's an ATF agent? It's not 100. I'd put it pretty damn close. That's what they're doing at gun shows. And listen, even according to the guidance document that came out 2015, 2016 under Obama, even then they said, listen, ATF has always said that it doesn't count. You're not engaged in the business if you're simply liquidating a private collection. I've had people call me and say, my dad died and dad has 100 guns in his collection. Can I sell all 100 of those guns? Well, yeah, if you'd rather have the money than the guns, you can, quote unquote, liquidate that private collection. And even though you sold 100 guns, you're not considered to be engaged in the business of selling firearms because you're simply liquidating a private collection. But people have taken that. And listen, if you go to gun shows, you've seen the same people that I have at gun shows. They've got the ones I see all the time. They got these carved wooden signs that they sit out on a table that says liquidating private collection. And these guys have trailers that they pull all over the state, or hell, who knows, maybe all over the region or the country. And they go to gun shows and they sell guns and they buy guns. And they just set this sign out that says liquidating private collection. And they think that's some magic wand that protects them from being prosecuted because their sign says liquidating private collection. That's not the way it works. If ATF sits there and monitors you and videos you selling X number of guns at this gun show, then they see you buying guns and setting those guns out on the table at the next gun show, they're going to accuse you of violating federal law and take you to jail. And that's under existing law right now. But for those folks who just enjoy the buying and selling of guns, and I know people like this, they like getting new guns. They like turning them over, get something different than that, upgrading, whatever it might be. ATF is paying a lot of attention to this, and in particular, where you've sold a number of guns and they show up at crime scenes, there's going to be a knock on the door, and there may be a subpoena associated with it. There may be an indictment associated with it. I know, I see it. People hire me when it's happened to them. So it's a word to the wise, and apparently that's only going to accelerate. And what the Brady campaign's already talking about, and Biden's already talking about, is that this is a leapfrog from requiring background checks from private dealers. So again, there's no such thing ever as a legal private dealer. If you're a dealer, you have to be licensed. That's the way it's always been. And all these announcements from the Biden administration really, I think, are mischaracterizing the law as it exists. But they're saying, well, we're now going to require unlicensed dealers to do background checks, which really is just requiring them to have FFLs, and FFLs have to do background checks. And that's been the law all along. But this is a way to leapfrog from that directly into universal background checks, to where even like the gentleman who called and said, hey, there's an 18, 19-year-old who's interested in potentially buying a gun. Can I sell that to him? Under universal background checks, even though that person's nowhere close to being engaged in the business as a dealer, he wants to sell one gun to one person. Universal background checks would require a background check in that situation as well. And guess what? There's no way universal background checks are enforceable. They're specifically not enforceable unless you have universal registration. Why? Because there's no way to prove who sold what gun to whom unless you know who owns every gun, just like vehicles are registered. So without registration, you can't enforce universal background checks. Universal background checks is a way to leapfrog then into universal registration, and you and I both know what registration is used for. When the government has a list of everyone who owns guns, what possibly could happen with how the government would use that list? You know it and I know it, and that's where we're heading, folks, without any doubt about it. Right now we're taking a break. We come back, I'm going to play for you a bit. I saw posted on Twitter. I've had 1,000 people send this to me in different forms. That may be the best mic drop moment on a gun control issue or a Second Amendment issue I've heard in a long time. We'll be back with that when we come back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Mario Andretti, Tony Kanaan, and Dario Franchitti, champions who have shared their stories at Tales from the Track. This May, WIBC welcomes Indianapolis 500 winner and 6-time IndyCar champion Scott Dixon to share his stories from the greatest track in racing. Monday, May 20th, Scott joins you and Hammer and Nigel for an evening of food, fun, and tales from the track. Brought to you by Relay Indiana. Tickets are available now at WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for my friends at Pinnacle Firearms in Carmel, located at 598 West Carmel Drive. These are my buddies. I go way back with these folks. I've ridden a lot of miles on a lot of Harleys with these guys, and they have a wonderful gun shop right there at 598 West Carmel Drive. Great place to buy pistols, rifles, shotguns, ammunition, or accessories. And get this, they have a full-time gunsmith right on the premises, and they do Cerakoting and refinishing right there on the premises. They did a beautiful urban camo Cerakote on an 870 Police Magnum SBS that I took in there, and that thing gets raves anytime I ever post a picture or people see it at the range. It's absolutely beautiful, and they can do similar services for you. Check them out at 598 West Carmel Drive, right there in Carmel, or you can also see them at pinnacle-firearms.com. That's pinnacle-firearms.com.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
There is no reason to live with achy joints. There's no reason to live with pain, and there's no reason not to seek out help. That help is at QC Kinetics in Eagle Creek, in Greenwood, and in Carmel. Under the leadership of National Medical Director Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, QC Kinetics can help you get rid of joint pain with no surgery, no drugs, and no steroids. That's right. These are no longer your best options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative treatments that deliver lasting results. We're talking natural biologics, using your body's own power to repair and restore damaged joint tissue. Talk to QC Kinetics today. Get a free consultation. They even have Saturday hours, so you have no downtime at work. Call QC Kinetics today and tell them Tony Katz sent you. QC Kinetics is in Eagle Creek, in Greenwood, and in Carmel. Call today. 317-559-PAIN. That's 317-559-PAIN. QC Kinetics. 317-559-PAIN.
Denny Smith here for Sundown Gardens in Westfield. The tropicals are here for you and ready to sell, and the nursery is so well stocked in Westfield and certainly ready for you to shop. Sundown Gardens is ready to beautify your garden and yard this spring. Enjoy the spring weather and plan a trip to Sundown Gardens at 186th Street and Spring Mill Road in Westfield. Flowers, trees, shrubs, mulch, and more. Sundown Gardens in Westfield has it. 186th Street and Spring Mill Road, just west of Grand Park. Follow them on social media for daily updates at sundown.gardens.com.
Are you looking for new furniture? Now is the time during the once-in-a-lifetime sale only at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus. Hey, this is Spencer Thompson, and I guarantee you the absolute best price on everything from Lazy Boy and Indiana-made Smith Brothers of Bern. Low price guarantee on every sofa, sectional, and recliner, plus free delivery only at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus, now through Monday.
Michaelis presents Password. The word is basement.
Wet. Rain. Leaky. Faucet. Stinky. Socks. Moldy. Underwear.
No, it's basement. Really moldy underwear.
Well, sometimes.
Ew.
Basement waterproofing and French drains. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it. Come on, take your basement back. 844-FIX-INDY.
Your bathroom is boring and basic too. It seems like there's nothing you can do. A better bath awaits. You'll feel brand new, relaxing in a world of peace at the Bath Authority.
Hey, it's Rob. Right now, schedule your free in-home estimate and get $1,000 off a new shower or bath, plus 36 months of interest-free financing. Restrictions apply. A better bath awaits.
You're our priority at the Bath Authority.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for the last segment of the Gun Guy Show here. Again, this has absolutely flown by. But I want to leave you with a feel-good moment, if you care about your Second Amendment rights. And this has to do with a guy that a lot of us sort of love to hate. Hate's too strong of a word. He's certainly annoying. But David Hogg, you know who that is? He was one of the Parkland kids. And it was a big debate. He said he was in the high school, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, when that horrific shooting happened. A lot of people disputed that and said he really wasn't even in the school at all. He ran over there after the shooting and wanted to jump in the middle of it. But he, was on the cover of Time magazine with some of the other so-called Parkland kids and was involved in the March for Our Lives in Washington, D.C. And ultimately got accepted to Harvard. And I saw articles that said he had like something like a C or B minus average and still got into Harvard because apparently Harvard was real excited about his gun control efforts. Well, he was having an open forum in New Hampshire talking about gun control. And one Lily Tang Williams, a Chinese immigrant, had this to say.
Hi, my name is Lily Tang Williams. Welcome to my live free or die state. Actually, I am a Chinese immigrant who survived communism. And under Mao, 40 million people were starving to death after he sold communism to them. And 20 million people died, murdered during his Cultural Revolution. So my question to you, David, is that can you guarantee me, a gun owner tonight, our government in the U.S., in D.C., will never become a tyrannical government? Can you guarantee that to me?
There's no way I can ever guarantee that any government will not be tyrannical.
Well, then the debate on gun control is over because I will never give up my guns. Never. And you should go to China to see how gun control works for dictatorship of CCP.
There you go. Can you guarantee me a government will not become tyrannical? No, I can't guarantee you that. The gun control debate is over. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Lily Tang Williams. That's it for this week's edition of the Gun Guy Show. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you come back. This is Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Hey, it's Hammer and Nigel for Window Nation. Now, you may hear the